Welcome to Bari Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
Well, hey, Lita.
Hey, Shan.
Welcome. We're actually sitting here during the day this week, so I've got a cup of coffee.
And I've got my electrolytes.
No wine. I know. None of that Dutch courage, as they call it.
This will be interesting.
Yeah. Yesterday, finally got to do an running event. It's obviously with COVID, it hasn't been on, which has been a bit of a shame. But yesterday, we actually got to go to Jetty to Jetty.
Oh, God, it was so good just being back out and around people again.
I know.
Atmosphere and the buzz.
I know, it was amazing. I have to kind of touch on something because I ran back to you after I finished and obviously ran with you to support you in. And I'm the kind of person where I support how I want to be supported. So I was like, Lita, catch that guy in the grey. And then at one point I said, throw me your water, because you had a water bottle in your hand. And I said, just throw it to me and I'll take it for you. And you threw it with such velocity. I was like, I think she's...
I lobbed it at you.
I may not be supporting her in the way... Like, how do you like to be supported in those situations? Like... Are you like to the power pole, or are you just left alone?
At that point in time, let me put it like into perspective. I just ran 9.8 kilometers. It was so hot. I was just over an hour's worth of running, and I could see the finish line. Like, I'm not stupid. I can see the finish line, Shan. And
I just had to reinforce it.
You're like, the finish line is just there. Just keep running. Catch the dude in front. And I was like, mate, if you looked at my heart rate, I'm sitting at 190 beats per minute right now. Like, I'm literally about to have a heart attack.
Okay.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone. I did think that when I saw your stats after, and your heart rate was like 194 beats per minute. And I was like, okay, yeah, she really was trying really hard. Maybe telling her to catch that guy in the grey. I probably would have thrown the bottle with velocity too.
In time too, there was a couple behind me, and you said to her, I think she's actually going to punch me.
No, you ran past him, and I was like, you could tell in the lady's face, she's like, I think she's going to punch me. I'm like, I think she's going to punch me. Anyway, we have an amazing guest today. Would you like to introduce him?
Our guest today, I don't really know that much about him, but you do, Shan. You followed him from the very start of your journey. He had the gastric sleeve back in March of 2017. He weighed in at 205 kilos. Now, 3.5 years later, he's dropped 100 kilos. He's also met the love of his life along the journey, and they've just welcomed a new baby. To say that his journey has changed his life is an understatement. Welcome our guest, Matt Taylor.
Hey, Matty, how are you, buddy?
Brilliant. Yourselves?
Yeah, very well. First off, I want to put a bit of context into this, because why I wanted to get Matt on is there's a photo that I will show on YouTube. For anyone who obviously is listening to the audio version, you won't be able to see it. But he showed a photo back in the early days before I had even had surgery, where it was him sitting behind the front seat of his truck. Before surgery, obviously, his tummy was almost touching the steering wheel. Then after, it was quite a reasonable gap. And I remember seeing this photo in my early stages before I'd gone down the line, still stressing about the surgery, seeing it, I screenshotted it. Sorry, Matt. Yeah, I did have a photo of you on my phone for a very long time. Sent it to my wife at the time, and I was just like, wow, look at this. And we both were just like it got me excited. So yeah, Matty, I want to start by saying thank you. And
no dramas.
And do you remember taking this photo? And did you think, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that reached out to you after this photo to say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I do remember taking it. So many inspirational before and afters on a lot of the socials. And like you said, a lot of them were from women. And I just wanted to do something a little bit different, and my life is always, well, not always, but a lot of the time has revolved around trucks and stuff like that. And one of the biggest problems I faced with my weight was not actually physically doing the job, but my stomach was actually touching the steering wheel. So, just to drive that truck was really, really hard. So something that changed massively early on for me with my job was, I had this humongous gap. I couldn't just see the steering wheel. I could see my legs. I could see my knees. I could see my feet. I could, things that I've never seen before in my job, So yeah, it was definitely big for me. And I just wanted to do something a little bit different. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was, as I said before, like a lifestyle thing, like seeing you just live life and these little things that you would never think about. Just you were doing it. It was amazing to see.
Quite relatable too, because a lot of people have I've seen the photo since then pop up quite a few times. It's like the seatbelt photo on the
airplane.
The airplane. It's very relatable. Like, you can kind of go, wow, I can really see myself in that spot.
So off the bat, anyway, Matty, what was it that made you go down the lines of weight loss surgery?
Definitely, I have to put it down to my kids. So at the time when I'd actually decided that I wanted to do this, it was probably a few years earlier. And I guess, like a lot of people, a little bit of being scared, a little bit of wondering what is life going to be like afterwards, the whole sort of thing. So that's probably why I delayed a little bit. But definitely my kids, I couldn't stand the thought of, because at the time I had 3 daughters. I couldn't stand the thought of them not having me to walk them down the aisle. And I just thought, and for me, my kids make my world go around, and before anything else. And and that just scared the absolute crap out of me. And I went, no, I have to do something. I have to do it for them. I have to show them that this isn't normal, and that I didn't want them to go down the same path as me.
Yeah, because I do have a question there where I said, you're the right old Brady Bunch these days. You have 4 daughters, you have 3 stepchildren. Have you
Correct.
found that taking this journey has made you a different dad?
Yeah, definitely. From the emotional side and like the love that I always have for my kids, nothing has ever changed there. I'm just 100% committed to my kids in that way. But when it comes to the physical side, like I was always out there and I was always active. But at 205 kilos, I mean, no matter how active you are heavily limited in what you can actually do. Yeah. So like I could hold my kids on the flying fox, but I could never actually say, watch dad first. You know what I mean? Like,
love that.
Just different things like that. And yeah, so it has enabled me to do a lot more things with the kids that I couldn't do in the past. And I think also because I'm not so tired, just doing everyday things, I'm more encouraged to do things more often as well. So it's, definitely it's been brilliant for me and my relationship with the kids, but also from the other side, from the kids' relationship with me. So yeah.
Love that.
So obviously before surgery you had some goals in mind, mostly probably, losing the weight and becoming more able to do things with your kids. But has there been certain things that you've achieved now post-surgery that you just would not have even thought possible if it wasn't for the weight loss surgery?
Probably seems like a little bit of a dark issue to talk about, but I guess it's real life. I was, like a lot of people, I was in a marriage that I didn't want to be in. I never thought I could be happy. I never thought I deserved to be happy. I never thought I would actually have the courage to do it, and something sort of snapped in me. And when I decided that this is it, this is the path I needed to go down, I needed to change everything in my life. And one of those things was weight loss surgery. One of those things was I needed to, for right or wrong, I needed to remove myself from that relationship. And so I think before I had surgery and stuff like that, I never thought I'd actually have the courage to go down the path of finding a new life. And I've always been a confident guy, but the surgery just gives me something else. Do you know what I mean? Like I've never been shy, but it's just given me something else. And so that on the emotional side of it, probably something like that. But like I used to play footy and I used to get paid to play footy when I was younger. I was an athlete, and I've always loved doing things like hiking and doing stuff like that. And like I've got a challenge I want to do next year, which is absolutely nuts. I'm training up for something like that, and that just I wouldn't have been able. I could barely walk to the fridge, let alone do the hike that I want to do next year. Do you know what I mean? So like on the physical side of things, there's that as well. So
we love people who want to do nuts things.
Yeah,
so we're totally on board with that.
Sounds like you're on Team Crazy. How long after your surgery did you separate from your partner?
It actually happened beforehand.
Yep.
But it's sort of like that. It was that turning point where I decided, because I ended up going through the public system with my gastric sleeve surgery. So for me, kicking things into gear wasn't just about, okay, I had to have surgery first and then everything followed on. Once I got in that mindset, it was this is what I need to do to make this happen. Like my goals to make them happen. And, and for right or wrong, one of the things I needed to do was to separate from my wife as well. And, so yeah, I actually separated sometime before I actually had the surgery, but the process was probably about 2.5 years long to get surgery through the public system. So
yeah, I was going to ask that about the public system, because you don't hear about a lot of people. It is was it 2.5 years? The process.
Yeah, it's approximately 2.5 years. Yeah.
And you had to have certain boxes that you ticked and all of that sort of thing to be able to get it done through the system, did you? Or?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, there were certain BMIs and stuff like that you needed to hit, which are a lot stricter than going through private. You know what I mean? So private, obviously, you have to be a certain BMI to qualify to be able to do it. But to get it done on a public system where they have to essentially deem you as a life-threatening risk, that inside the next, I think it's 3 years or something like that you are going to be a major risk of potentially kicking the bucket.
Yes.
And at 205 kilos, I actually had no weight-related health issues, luckily. But at 205 kilos, it's like I'm rolling the dice every day, aren't I? It's only a matter of time until I don't roll that 6 anymore.
No, totally, it is, because 205 kilos, you're not just like overweight, like you're morbidly obese, and obviously there'd be a lot of other things that would come with carrying that extra weight.
God, the pressure on your organs and all that sort of thing, that would have been.
I think I lost 70 kilos and I was still morbidly obese. So.
Yeah, because that was one of the things with my surgeon. He said to me, like, how females and males carry fat differently. So, like, you know, males, it's amongst your organs, where females, it's like there's a layer. I'm not a medical expert, but like this is kind of the gist of things that he gave to me, where he was saying it's more risky, the front side weight for males, because it will almost choke your organs. So, you know, being 205 kilos, I can definitely see where they would have pushed you through the system, that's for sure. Getting to 205 kilos, as we just said before, there must have been some lifestyle habits that got you there. Can you look back now and see the habits and like acknowledge these habits, and what have you done to rectify these?
Oh, absolutely. I think laziness, honestly. Laziness. And I'm big on taking responsibility, and there's no two ways about it. I myself, like there are other things that influence, but I myself, I'm the one that put that food in my mouth every day. I'm the one that made those choices, and I was the one that was going to pull myself out of it. Do you know what I mean? So so I was just like living a life on the road. Like instead of spending that extra 15 minutes preparing food at the start of the day, it was, I had these cafes and they knew my name. They knew my order. They knew everything. I just rocked in the door and they just seen my truck pull up and they just started making my food. I mean, like, it was just lazy. Like, it was good food. It tasted great. But I mean, at the end of the day, my decisions are what got me to where I was. You know what I mean? So
I guess being 200 kilos as well, like you roll through the truck stop to get your food, but you're also not doing much exercise either. So it's not like you were ever sort of being that active and all that sort of thing. So the food that you were putting in your mouth, it was just going straight into your body with no sort of consequence, I guess you could say.
Yeah, 100%. Like the choices I was making were making me heavier. And then because I was getting heavier, it was making it even harder to exercise.
Yeah.
So like we've all been, anybody who's listening to this has either been through it or they're thinking about doing it. I mean, we everyone who's listening to this is going to know exactly what that feels like. And for me anyway, it was about taking responsibility and saying, you know what, you know, I done it, hands up, it was me. I'm the one that's going to pull me out of this. And until I was ready to accept that, I was never, ever going to change. Do you know what I mean? So like, I had I sort of like give myself a plan going forward and what I needed to achieve. And I sort of wrote those things down. And I have this saying that I think I read somewhere years and years ago, and it's just stuck in my mind. And that saying is, if I can see it in my mind, I can hold it in my hands. And what that means for me is, like, if I can see my future a certain way, I can have it. I might have to work my butt off to get there, but if I can see it, I can have it. You know, and ever since, you know, I sort of come up with that or read about that before I decided to go down the path of surgery and change a lot of other things in my life. And I think I've just lived by that motto, and it's really helped me get through some tough times.
We actually put that on the card. So at each episode, we have a card at the front here, which has a saying on it. And today, Alita actually printed that out. I love that because it kind of plays into one that I've lived by as well. And it's the body achieves what the mind believes. So it's a similar concept of like, if you believe it, you can do it. And, you know, and it's down the same thing as that, because it's like, if you can, imagine it, you can make it happen. There's nothing stopping you apart from you. You set your own limitations.
And that just goes to show too, though, if you wrote all of that down and you made the list before surgery, that sort of shows what sort of mind frame that you were trying to get yourself into. Like, that takes a lot of work for somebody to sit down and go, right, I know that my life needs to change. How am I going to make it happen? So, like, well done for you. A lot of people don't get to that stage until they're sort of, 2-3 months down the track and have started losing the weight. So kudos to you for acknowledging that and getting it done prior to the surgery, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks. It's something that, I've never been more ready for anything in my life. And I was in that right headspace, and I had to be. And I think, my first 12 months especially, I just went, I am not taking anything for granted. I'm just going to smash this as hard as I can. And there are some fantastic results out there, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own backside, so to speak, but I don't know many people that lost as much as I did in the first sort of 12 months or even in a short period. Like, I have never worked harder for anything in my life than what I did, especially in that first 12 months. So.
How much did you lose in the first 12 months?
Well, so that photo we spoke about earlier with the seatbelt photo, that was taken 7.5 months in, and I'd lost 90 kilos. And big. In the first, I think my 100 kilos come at about 11 months mark. I think it was roughly around about there. And I did manage to lose a little bit more, and I guess we can talk about that as well. But I've actually put a few kilos back on, so I'm in the process too of now recalculating, reevaluating, and yeah, definitely getting my head back in the game. So that's already started now. So I'm definitely back in a much better headspace, and there's a few factors that went into that. But again, it's about taking responsibility.
It is. Well, because one of the things we did read about, obviously, in the questions that we sent out to you is your job. Do you have the same job as you've always had, or is it a new job? And you kind of mentioned about some of the habits that come along with that, like, with the job that you have.
So, no, I for a big portion of my adult life where I've been heavily overweight, truck driving has been a part of my life. I've done other things as well. But, yeah, so what I was doing probably back when I started was more localized driving. So there was the more physical side of, like doing the deliveries and stuff like that. Whereas once we touched on it, I've met my wife, and when we were engaged and we sort of were planning out our wedding, and we both were previously married in the past, and we made some mistakes, and one of those were on the wedding day, and we decided that this time we want to do it right, and we want to go big, you know what I mean? And with a big wedding come a big budget. And so I figured, well, what I'm going to do is I've got an opportunity to go back onto the highway and run interstate. So much better money, lifestyle's crap. What comes with lack of sleep, lack of seeing your family, but you're away from home a lot longer periods of time. So you can prep, but it's harder to be as focused, or it's harder to prep enough food to take for several days at a time and stuff like that, rather than an 8-hour shift or whatever it may be. So yeah,
because when we were trying to sit down with you, that was one thing, trying to work out the schedules, because you're like, I work all nights and so I'm available during the days, and it's lucky that it's Queen's birthday, we actually had an opportunity to sit down with you and have a chat, because you're working some big hours.
Do you find, though, that since you've lost the weight, that driving the longer distances and all that sort of thing, like there's less risk with your job now? Like obviously you've probably got more energy and your stomach's not touching the steering wheel anymore. Like do you find that your driving of the trucks has changed dramatically now since losing the weight?
Yeah, well, 100%. So back when I got my MC license, so for people not in the truck world, that's a multi-combination. So I'm licensed to drive B-doubles, road trains, the whole lot. So if it's on the road, I can drive it. But back when I first got my license, I was working for a company, and I said to them, look, I've been here for a while. Like, I do my job well. I've got my license. Let's move up. And they actually, as embarrassing as it was, they took me aside one day beside one of the big trucks, and they said, Matt, we're not going to put you in one of the trucks. And I said, well, what is it? And I said, I do my job well. I've never scratched anything on a truck. And I said, it's not your ability, it's your size. And like I was angry, but all in the same conversation, I was angry than upset. And they were saying that you're just too big of a risk, like to climb up those stairs to get up into that cab. Are you going to fall one day? Are you going to have a heart attack behind the wheel of this, 26 meter long, 62 ton vehicle? Wow. Think about how many people you're going to kill if you do that. And I just went, crap, I was just like, wow. And so it's easier now because, one, I can do the job, but definitely on a fatigue side of things, there's no way I could do my job now. I'm working 15 hours, 16 hours a day, sometimes like 75 hours a week, and all of those hours are through the night. You know what I mean? So I just couldn't do that job at my old weight because I would be too fatigued.
God, I couldn't even do that job now. I don't know how you do that. That's insane.
That's big hours.
So you touched on this earlier. You said something, and I actually wrote it down because I really, I related to it. You said you didn't feel like you deserved to be happy, but then you decided that you needed to rid yourself of the relationship that you were in. I know personally I was in a similar situation, and I just thought this was as good as it got, and that, you just settled. But clearly you haven't done that now, which is amazing, and you can see it in your face. Like you are just so, like you radiate happiness, which is just nice to see. But you also mentioned before that you married somebody who you actually met in the weight loss community. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I literally just done I was actually having a down day. I was on a very, very rare day. I was actually homesick from work, and I just don't take sick days. And it turned out to be the best sick day of my life. So I was home. I was having a pretty down day, and I felt like a bit of a pick-me-up, and I posted up a before and after photo on one of the Facebook pages. And my now wife actually just a quick little comment, and she just said something. Actually, it's bad. I can't remember the exact words, but it was something like great work or good achievement or something like just very short and sweet. And then I think I'd gone and got a drink, and I'd come back and I'd noticed that about half an hour earlier she had done the same day, like done a before and after photo. And I went, oh, cool. Like, I've seen this girl. She'd actually commented on mine. I've seen the results, and her results are great as well. And I went, oh, just exactly the same thing. Just type back, great job or something like that. And later on, I think it was actually me that made the first move. And it wasn't like there's no intention with the message. I just sent a message through and said something like, oh, because she mentioned that she's from Brisbane. I said, hey, I'm from Brisbane as well. Fantastic work. How long ago did you have surgery? We started chatting. And there was just something about this girl, and I got a lot of attention, probably with my confidence and dropping the weight from the opposite sex, both online and offline. But I sort of just passed a lot of them up, and there's something about this girl. I just knew that she was something different, within 1 week I was taken her to Mount Cootha for our first date, and it just went from there, and it was amazing. It was just brilliant, and I've never met anyone else who I can relate to as much. She comes from a previous relationship with 3 kids. I was the same. We both had the surgery. We both had great results. We both wanted the same things in life. We probably both slipped up for the same reasons too. Do you know what I mean? So we knew where we had come from, knew where we wanted to be. We knew what we needed to do to get there, and we just fed off each other. And the weight loss, the relationship, the love, everything blossomed. And it just, I couldn't have asked for anything better.
I just got goosebumps from that. And look at when you
how
tell
happy.
that smile, when you tell that story, the smile on your face is just. So between the two of you, how much weight have you lost?
Like Shan mentioned before, today actually is 5 weeks ago that we had our new baby daughter.
Congratulations.
So my wife, thank you very much. So my wife isn't yet back at her weight, but if I want to quote the best numbers, so when I was down at my lowest and before I gained a couple of kilos and my wife got pregnant and stuff like that, together I think we were at about it's about 175 kilos combined that we had lost. So
whoa.
Something like that. Yeah, it was massive.
That's not just a person; that's a morbidly obese person.
Well, that's a couple.
You've lost an entire couple.
Yeah, you've gone from that's two couples to one.
Yeah, that's 25 kilos more than my wife started at before she had surgery.
Wow.
So that's
insane.
That's incredible. So dropping over 100 kilos, Maddie, you clearly would have went through your fair share of body dysmorphia. Before your first round of plastics, how did you feel about yourself?
It's something that I still battle with now. Like I hate the excess skin. I absolutely do. To give you an idea, like I would go to the beach as a big guy and I'd take my shirt off and I'd be like, I'm just a big guy. Now it's sort of like I won't. You know what I mean? I don't know how to put it. Like I'm not ashamed of what I've achieved and how hard I've had to work to get to this point. It's just like I don't need the snickering and the people like, hey, what's he done? Or why does he look different and weird? But I think for me, it was just something that it was always as a part of my plan, as a part of my journey has always been from day one, before I even had surgery, it was going to be, I'm getting this, I'm going to be having my skin removal. I want to not look like a particular figure or an icon or something like that. I just want to be normal. I want to look normal. And a part of that for me, and everyone's different, and I applaud people who decide to go, I want to keep the skin or for whatever reason. But for me and myself and my journey, and that's what people need to understand, it's your journey, not someone else's idea of what a perfect journey is. But for me and my journey, it was just something that I needed to do, and that skin was already going to be coming off. So I've had the front part of my tummy removed, and because I had such a massive amount of skin around my lower stomach, around my sides, my surgeon actually said to me it could be very detriment to my health if they do it all in one go, because I had such a large amount. So we've done the very front part now, and in about 8 weeks' time, I go for my second round. So I'm really excited about that. So all the love handle, the side bits around to the top of my buttocks almost. It'll almost join up around the top of my butt, and that'll sort of all lift up, and they'll take a massive chunk of skin out there. And then probably early next year, I'll have my chest and my underarm And as my surgeon said, if we're still friends after that, we'll think about the thighs. So, yeah.
I love that.
Because the before and afters of yourself, like your skin was like quite like next level.
Well,
like
when you lose 100 kilos, you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
take 100 kilos worth of potatoes out of a sack, the sack's going to be quite, empty, you know what I mean?
It's quite funny
Exactly
that you say,
right.
did you feel that you felt more like self-conscious of yourself when you had lost the weight but had the excess skin to what you did when you were bigger? Is that sort of how you felt?
I don't know. It's probably a hard one to answer. Like, I was more confident to be. I was happy to allow myself to be the token fat guy, but and I could go into the crowd and go, I'm just another one of those big guys. I'm another one of, whatever. But I now, it's a very rare moment for me to take my shirt off or anything like I am now. It's not that I'm ashamed of, like I said, of how hard I've worked. I just don't need the, why did he look like that, mummy? Or from a kid, you know what I mean? It's just easier for me just to say, all right, let's get the surgeries out of the way. And then it's just going to be like, I'll be walking around everywhere with no shirt on.
Yeah, he won't wear a shirt.
Put your shirt back on. Come on.
That's right. I'll just have to go to work with just the high-vis vest only. So.
Oh my God, can you please? That would be amazing.
Amazing photo. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's cool.
I'll work on it for you.
Excellent. Send us the photo and we'll put it up on the Bari Banter Instagram.
No worries.
And be like, look, this is what he's done. We touched on it earlier. You said that you've started getting back into hiking and mountain climbing and all that sort of thing. You've got a pretty big goal coming up. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so I was going to be in a couple of weeks' time, but because of how insane it is and the heat at the moment, I've decided to put it back for my own safety till after I've had my surgery. So it'll be probably as soon as it starts cooling down, maybe February, March next year. But I want to tackle Mount Barney, which is down the back of Boonarumbo Desert for southern Queensland, for anyone who's not familiar with the area. And to put Mount Barney into perspective, it's about a 10-hour hike. A lot of people actually camp overnight because it's that big. But to put it into perspective, the largest building on the Gold Coast is the Q1. So the Q1 building is 80 stories tall. Mount Barney is an additional 322 stories above that. So it sits at 1,350 meters above sea level. It's nuts. And I'm a very goal-orientated person. And, like I said, if I can see it in my mind, I can hold it in my hands, and I know what I want to get. I know what I got to do to achieve it. Now it's just about putting all the pieces in place to make it happen. So
wow. I did a hike the other day and it took me just under 5 hours, and that was pretty much, it only had, I think, about 500 meters of elevation in it, and that almost killed me. So I cannot, like, what sort of training are you doing for this?
Doing a lot of walks, doing a lot of runs, that sort of stuff. Just like nothing crazy, because my fitness still isn't good enough to do like what you guys do. But I mean, just with my time, I don't get enough time to do it sort of like the park runs and stuff every week and stuff like that. But when I'm going down in between my walks, I'm just doing like crazy leg lunges and as deep as I can get and stuff like that. And I probably look like a weirdo going around the streets, I swear. But, just things like that to really work my calves and work my quads and that sort of stuff so that I can have the endurance to go up. Like even things like walking backwards, like it sounds crazy, but like, so there's going to be points where I'm doing these climbs where my calves are just going to want to give out on me, and walking backwards will actually relieve some of that pain for a while. So just think, like, people must think I'm weird. I walk around the streets, but hey, whatever I need to do.
Yeah, I love that. Because he's been preparing for this for his whole life. He carried 100 kilos around for how long? So his legs are like, he's like, bring it on.
Bring it on. So are you planning on doing the whole thing in one day, like the 10 hours? You're not going to camp?
Yeah, absolutely, one day. So I'm going, just for my own safety, I'm going to kick off probably about half an hour before first light, just in case things go bad, because they absolutely can. I mean, this mountain at the moment, the rate is about 1 per week of rescues for injured or lost hikers. So absolutely things can go wrong. So I'm going to be prepared. I'm taking a big pack. I'm going to carry extra weight for if the worst happens, but start before the first light. That way, in case it turns from a 10-hour hike to a 14-hour hike or a 15-hour hike, that I can hopefully still go back with a little bit of light. So,
gosh, what are you going to do for nutrition for 10 hours? That's a lot of stuff that you've got to be
just
fueling
taking
your body with.
roast dinner with him.
That's going to be a part of the challenge. I haven't done anything that big yet, so I think that's one of the other things I've got to work on. I've got some different electrolyte gel things and that sort of stuff. They're going to come in really handy. But I think the biggest key is just going to be hydrating and having a lot of just like smaller, like high energy like protein bars, and I know Shan's a big fan of the oats, but like oat bars and stuff like that to give me that kick that I need.
Yes, brother. Yes. Oats never let you down. Yeah, it sounds like I think the biggest thing is going to be fueling enough. Because, you know, that's the biggest thing, like with my marathon or the ultra I have coming up, is I've got to make sure I have enough fuel, because the last thing you want to do is get halfway through and then have no energy and bonk. You know, you're never going to get to a point and be like, oh, I wish I didn't have this never-ending amount of energy. You know what I mean? So you better to overfuel than under.
I guess the good thing about the very top third peak part is crazy going up and even harder coming down. But after that, I guess it's going to be easier coming down. Do you know what I mean? So like, if I get to that point where I've just ran out of energy and I feel like I can't do it anymore, at least I've got the downhill section to go. So
and people think that we're crazy.
But that's what I love about this community too. Like there is just like we almost get this new lease of life. We go from like just living and like, you know, surviving to what's the most epic thing I could do? And I love it because it's just taking life back. It's not just taking life back. It's like
everybody's got a different idea too. Like yours is climbing a ridiculous mountain. Ours is doing stupid long runs, that sort of thing. Like it's just everybody has their idea of crazy and then they just chase it. And I love it.
Chasing happiness. That's what it's all about.
That's it.
Living for accomplishment. So Maddie, on that point, what would be your best piece of advice to someone just starting out?
Touch on what I said before. Take responsibility. Be prepared to work your absolute butt off. Like, have that goal in mind, know what you need to do to get there, and just don't stop till you get there. But understand, like, you have to understand that you put yourself here. You're the one that's going to dig yourself out. You know what I mean? Like, take responsibility. But that also means take responsibility for the wins as well. Be proud of them. Like, celebrate them. When you get that first 20 kilos lost, be proud of it. You know what I mean? Because you are the one who done it. You know what I mean? Just take responsibility and work hard.
I think it is, because sometimes you can get like push responsibility onto someone else. Like someone else made me do that. No, well, they didn't put it in your mouth, you know, so, or whatever it was. And like being responsible and actually now saying, I'm going to take responsibility, make decisions for myself. Yes, other people can have their input, but I'm not going to blame them if I take their input.
That's right. Like growing up, like when I lived with my parents, I'm not even exaggerating here. The only thing that was in our fridge, like for liquids wise, was either milk or Coca-Cola full strength sugar. So like that was all we had in the fridge, right? So, but I drank it. I could have went to the tap. You know what I mean? Like, and the easy option, the lazy option was to go up there. And until I was ready to say, I done this. I mean, I could easily pass the buck and say, oh, but because of this, because of that. But at the end of the day, my choices put me here, and I'm the one that's going to get me out. And until I was in that mindset, it was never gonna change for me until until I accepted it, you know?
I love that. That's such a good mindset to have.
It is something I think we all just need to, because we have lived a life of just blaming others, you know, putting everything into too hard basket. And I think you just need to get rid of the too hard basket and just be like, I need to do this for me. I need to make this change because I deserve better. I deserve a better life.
It's a hard dose of reality too, though. Like we have to take responsibility for ourselves, and we have gotten ourselves to where we were in the first place. And it's not the easy way out. Surgery is not the easy way out. So take responsibility and work damn hard to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that was something that I struggled a little bit early on with the people that were coming up to me and they're saying, I haven't seen you for 6 months. Like, oh my God, like you're 50 kilos lighter, you're 60 kilos lighter. How did you do it? And I would be straight up. I wouldn't beat around the bush, but like, I had gastric sleeve surgery. And before I could finish my sentence, I'd be like, do you know what I mean? And we've all been there. From those conversations actually it was sort of like a two-sided track. Like one side of the people who just went, oh, you cheated. And they didn't want to hear a word of what you had to say. And then there was a lot of other people who went, tell me more. And I've had, honestly, I'd have to say at least probably a dozen people, including a few in my own family, that have actually gone down the track that have had the surgery and they've come back and said, Matt, it's what you've done and how open you were about it is why I felt I could do it or something like that. So, I've got big shoulders. I can cop the people who think I've cheated. They have no idea. They're too close-minded. But the people who wanted to understand and they could use that information I was giving them. A lot of them, they saved their life as well, So I can deal with the hard conversations if it helps someone else.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I guess I was going to say as well, for anyone who, Matt had a big influence in why I wanted to share my journey, because you had such a big, like those photos, those pictures you put up did like make me go down the path I did. So if anyone wants to thank Matt for putting me on their news feed, you can. Also, for all the people that don't like me in their news feed, you can also blame Matt. Sorry, Matt. I'm just
Thank you.
Throwing you under the bus, so to speak.
because he had a big play in that. But Matty, thank you again for joining us. You're an absolute legend. You're beyond excelled, and I think you've inspired a lot of people.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely phenomenal, really. Your journey has just been mind-blowing. So thanks so much for coming on the show. And that is another episode of Bari Banter.
Go to Bari Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all. And as always, please stay beautiful.